mentioned earlier of doing little sections of the budget and hoping that, where does education fit in your timeline? I mean, school districts have to put out layoff notices in May. We'd probably like to know before April 25th. And the federal stimulus money for education, could you tell us what you're doing with that?
We're still trying to figure out what the method of distribution of the federal stimulus dollars are and what's going to go to which schools. I think you might want to talk to the governor's office about it, because I don't think that the federal process is completely organized. So, but you know, the administration's trying to be on top of that and work with the legislature. But it's a challenging process. It's what streams of money, what are the timelines, who makes the decisions. We're really just trying to get on top of all that. So that definitely relates to education, because there's a major piece of federal money that is going to go directly to schools. I'm glad about that. There will still have to be reductions at the state level.
You hope to get that piece done before the whole budget, the education, so it's...
Yeah, that'll be one of the major areas that we'll look at. I don't know that we've come up with the timeline of what goes first yet.
Are you thinking that federal aid would be enough going directly to the schools to offset the kinds of cuts you're making, or are you saying you need to go deeper, you need to go quite a bit deeper?
Yes.
Is there an example of a couple of programs? I realize you're going through the budget process, the discussions, and you can't say for sure where you're going to cut, but are there some examples that you could give to the public that they should brace themselves? That these are some things that under any scenario that you can imagine right now, they better get ready to say goodbye to?
Well, there will be reductions in all areas of state services that are not protected either constitutionally or legally, such as debt service. So there will be significant reductions in elder services. I don't know which and how much. We want to protect the most vulnerable people in Washington State, so that's part of what we are trying to determine. Sorry that I know that this is not meeting with some people's sense of how quickly we should be able to make these statements, but we are trying to work cooperatively between the House and the Senate, and we're trying to do this thoughtfully, given the consequences for people. The basic health plan, there will be reductions in the basic health plan. People will lose health care, or people who would have been able to get onto the health plan will not be able to get on and get that kind of health care coverage. We hope that the reductions are not going to be as large as in the governor's budget, but you can look at the governor's budget and see very specific examples.
When you talk specifically about VHP, do you think it will be a situation where there will be fewer people served than there are today, or that you won't be able to serve as an increase in VHP levels?
Well, we already, in the early reductions bill, went along with reducing the people coming onto the program. And I can't tell you kind of what level of reduction happens beyond that, but it will probably be significant.
And the FMAP money or the federal aid won't be able to backfill any of that?
That will be able to help significantly on the healthcare side of the budget. It definitely will. But I just don't know how that all adds up yet.
On VHP.
The folks with the healthcare advocacy groups are making a real push that the FMAP money, SCHIP money, these federal money that has a health nexus stay in that area and not get spread over to education, other buckets of money. How do you and how do the Senate Democrats feel about that idea?
Well, I think that we are, anything that is designated to go to a certain place will go to that place. There's going to be a lot of accountability in how we spend federal dollars. But how that actually adds up for each area, it's just too early for me to say. the cuts in healthcare were very significant in the governor's budget, so you could use that as an example of just how deep the reductions could be. As I said, we think our total number is governor's cuts plus 50%.
But so any of that federal money that frees up some piece of money, you know, for general fund purposes, the idea of, or the notion of keeping it in health, if it came from a health program, that's not necessarily something you guys are.
I'm just not at that level yet, sorry.
Yeah.
We're mostly talking about rainy day fund and pensions and general government reductions and things along those lines, and aiming to move to these specific areas.
Lisa, I'm told that the 290 million in cuts, actually the state spending cuts in that bill, that new bill, if they were continued into the 09-11, it would amount to $1 billion. Can we assume that will happen? You've done it in this thing, can we assume that?
I imagine most of the reductions that were made out to the end of the fiscal year will carry forward into the next 2-year budget, but I can't say that that's 100%.
But it's like nursing home rates, and they escalate. Nursing home rates, reimbursement rates that were supposed to rise, and that's why you kind of get to $1 billion.
Well, and so again, at the level of how you do the nursing home rates, I'm not at that level yet.
Okay.
Senator, to sort of follow up on Joe's question, and I apologize for being late, and I apologize if this is repetition. Is there any dialogue going on between Democrats and the Republicans, and is there any chance of coming to a compromise or looking at whether or not there are in fact any practical applications of their suggestion of a spending freeze?
Well, we are talking with each other on a lot of specific issues, of course. The spending freeze to me, as I said, I think before, is a way to not talk about specific cuts. Because you literally can't freeze every functional area of government. It can't be done. You can't freeze debt service. You can't freeze basic education. You can't freeze programs in which, you know, there are caseloads and people are entitled to services. So essentially, that can't happen. So that means cuts. It doesn't just mean that you would hold everything constant. It means you have to cut some things more than holding it constant. And I believe it's time to get specific about that, and we're going to get specific about that. We welcome the Republicans' specific suggestions of where to cut. And they have made some. They have said that we should freeze the basic health plan. And they have said that we should roll back children's health care coverage to the previous level. I believe they have said we should eliminate the GAU program. So they have made some specific suggestions. Those don't add up to the number we're looking at.
You want to put a number to governor cuts plus 50%? Is that $3 billion? 3.75?
I have to get back to you on that. We have it, but just...
Okay, because I thought it was about $2.5 billion of real cuts, and then half again would be 3.7. Okay.
Do you think Senators Tom and Derek will be able to revive this basic education finance?
I think what we're looking at is picking out the pieces of the task force recommendations where there is broad general agreement, and also figuring out the parts that need more detailed work and processes with like for example, the Professional Education Standards Board is looking at some of the pieces, and we'll move that forward. It'll be much less comprehensive than the original bills. And there are now 2 new bills, Senator Omeg's and I think Representative Sullivan. And the House and Senate are working together on this.
So